on this. All right, thank you, Molly, for reminding me to record, and welcome everyone to the oil study on Adaptiv. So if you don't have Adaptiv, you take a floral and a herbal oil and combine, for example, lavender or citrus bloom with aroma touch or just spearmint and lavender to just make it, to have a meeting of the two worlds of floral, so the flowers, and herbs. And then we can apply in our hand or on our whole, wherever you reach, upper torso, feet. And take a deep, deep inhale with the oil. And with Adaptiv, if you have it, but also with the other two, what you could do, just close your eyes for a while and then imagine the color blue. And whichever comes up for you with the color blue, it could be the ocean, it could be a flower, blue lotus, or something, the blue sky and its depth when it's really, really blue, where you can almost see the universe. It could be just any blue crystal or anything blue that would come up for you that will make you feel like you want to look at it for a while. And just imagine that blue and let yourself sink into it. Let the blue become bigger and let yourself become smaller. Let's say we're diving into a blue ocean, but it's still sunny up there in the upper part of the water. And it's blue and beautiful sunlight is mixed, and there's bubbles around you, and maybe there's dolphins around you, but then you let yourself sink deeper. And you know that at some point there's sand under you, but you just let yourself sink. And because you have a bubble in you, because you're a human and you have air in you, you will only sink slowly. And now we're slowing down time, so you don't need to catch your breath. We can almost feel like we can breathe underwater. There's no time frame there. You can just relax into that water and allow that blue to surround you and to tell you about how safe you are. And there's a slight current, so you're being sort of pushed around a little bit, but nothing big, just a little movement. You can make that movement in your body if you feel it right now. And then there's these beautiful fish around you, and the sun still kind of reaches where you are. But all you see really is the blue color, and it fills your heart and really takes you to a place of peace and calm. So whatever comes at you when you come to that surface in a minute, you can embrace it with that blueness of the ocean that is around you right now. And now you slowly swim to the surface, embrace that bright light that comes towards you. And slowly, once you're up at the surface and feel like you're ready, you can open your eyes and meet the circle of divers that you're with right now. So Adaptiv allows us to go deep into that calm. I did a similar, not at all like this, but similar feeling meditation with a color therapist. And I don't have the qualification to really do color meditation, but it struck me as so beautiful to not just incorporate the smell of an oil, but also the color that we may associate with it when we meditate or when we just sit with an oil, because some people meditate, some people pray, we all do our different formats, I suppose, how we relate to the oils. But it can be really, really beautiful to incorporate color too. Now, those of you that have, or I'll ask, does anyone have any frankincense questions right now? Because for Elizabeth, last Sunday we did an oil study on frankincense, and then we kind of had the assignment to use it all week. And there was like a before feedback form that we filled in, and then last night there was an after feedback form that there's no stress that if it's not filled in yet, that's fine. Just wondering if there's any questions that may have come up. If you guys have filled in, then you can ask them now.
I have a quick one. If it's just that I've been using it a lot. I didn't attend it and I didn't listen to replay yet, so probably I should just do that before. Maybe the questions are already answered.
Yeah,
but my partner here, he said that it felt really strong sometimes when I used it, and he was worried about maybe babies. Like, okay, maybe I'm like, I love the smell so much, but then it was too intense. So like, what is the safe, use on my body? I think I put 5 drops in like a bigger bottle.
No, that would be baby dilution. So you're safe. Yeah. Okay. So then
I had a little bit more. I just took a drop pure, and maybe that was like giving.
Yeah, and also frankincense is one of the oils that babies are quite okay with. Like they're the ones that the only one actually maybe copaiba and frankincense are the ones that I would even use neat on my baby. It just like without without having like, I don't want it to sound like you have to use it neat at all, but in case I didn't have any dilution and I wanted to use an oil, it would be frankincense on my baby.
Okay, good. So then also okay.
So it's frankincense is really safe. It does smell, it is noticeable, but it's not like it will, because with some oils with babies, like eucalyptus and peppermint, what we have is this, we have very many receptors up here, and it can relax too much in the upper, in the breathing apparatus, and so then the breathing will slow down in babies. But frankincense doesn't have the same chemistry, so it won't be doing that. It's more like the cooling oil, so the aroma touch or the deep blue and the single, like the mint oils and the eucalyptus. They with the little babies before 6 months, they still have this confusion about the breathing reflex, and then you don't want to have those cooling oils but you can still have them in the diffuser too. Just leave the door open, and so there's a safety issue if you overdose with cooling oils, but frankincense doesn't have that same problem. And if you had 5 drops in a roller, you would have had it down at 2-3% dilution, and that's appropriate for small children. So that's all. It's all safe. But then maybe your husband is really receptive, is really he smells it a lot, and then he may have experienced it to stir something in him that was strong.
And that's very interesting. With oils, we have different reactions to different oils, like for some reasons so that's also interesting.
Oh, we do.
Clarifying.
And frankincense is a strong oil on the soul level, definitely. I mean, it's the oil of the Father and the oil of oil of truth and the King of oils. Like, it's got all these like authoritative, strong messages with it. It also brings safety and clarity. But if for a father that is, I know your husband is a new father, there's probably lots going on. so he may want to dive into more the softer oils before he lets frankincense help him to ease in. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I like it the best actually when I take it under the tongue and just taste it, because the smell also can shake me sometimes. Maybe because sometimes I find myself being conveniently untruthful. Like when I kind of I don't want to say, or I don't want to do something, and then I kind of find the way around it a little bit, and then frankincense goes like, don't do that. So
that's funny that you say that, Kata. I just want to share what I discovered, that I don't love the smell. I thought I did, but I got a little bit tired of it.
yes, it can be challenging because, like, you know, when we like, it kind of like gives us that like spine up, and then after a while you're like, well, I just want to relax. Thank you. So I love to mix it with wild orange, just because it makes it so much more palatable in a way, in the smell. That's for me, that's a lovely mix. And it's good, like, if you notice your body's like, oh, do we have to do that again, you know, then it's good to have a break. Like, some people, I know that in my other Telegram group, the German one, they're doing a 30-day frankincense challenge, and I'm telling you, I think people are getting sick of Frankie. After like now it's day 22, they're like, oh my god, like daily, are you sure? You know, but you go very deep with it. You can try. There's Daddy. Hello. Okay. Wow. I know that Lindsay, she's not here today, but I did have some personal messages where she was using Adaptiv and frankincense together for some anxiety, and was really helped. And I'm just wanted to mention that now we're going to dive into Adaptiv, and then you can. Frankincense is a beautiful add-on to Adaptiv because it is so it's a tree oil. It's so woody or resiny, I suppose, and not much of that kind of note, or not much of that scent profile is in Adaptiv at all. So I find it a very good balancer. If Adaptiv sometimes is too sweet for me, so then I pull it down into frankincense kind of groundingness. That's fine, Molly. We saw you went into the kitchen. She wrote, I'm here, but need something to drink. Let me open my PDF. So I did promise not to create, hello baby. I did promise not to create so much information as last time. Elizabeth, for you to know, I'm doing an ebook on the side with all the research that I'm pulling together, and there's always more. Like, I'm noticing I could write like novels about each oil. Now I'm trying to just like stay on one kind of thought in each chapter, but anyways, it turns out to be like 20 pages each time, so it's like, I don't know, I'm gonna have to slow it down a little bit. Maybe there'll be less exciting oils along the line, but at some point, I don't know. Well, I'll be adding on chapters, and some of them may become a little bit shorter than others, but I'm sorry, I'm trying to share my screen. Here we go. So for Adaptiv, I'm just gonna try if I can just give you the PDF. Ish, whatever. So funny though that I'm usually I share just out of Canva, and now I thought it would be nice to have a PDF ready. Whatever it is. Can you guys see what I'm sharing? Yes, great. So when we think flower oils, their main components, so in lavender and magnolia and lots of other flowers, but also in cilantro and petitgrain, so some of the green oils too. The main component is called linalool, and linalool is like we discussed last week. We discussed alpha and beta pinene, right? Terpenes. Linalool is also a monoterpene alcohol. So it ends in ol, that means it's an alcohol. You can check out your oils, like let's say you have peppermint and you go, oh, I want to know what chemistry is in there. Then you can go into the doTERRA website and write discover solutions peppermint. And then there's a blog where there's like a little beautiful picture of which main components are in. Maybe I can show you how I mean. I'm just going to open my. So let us, hello, here. So I even do it like this, doTERRA discover solutions, and then let's do peppermint. And then it opens something. First there's like ads and stuff, but then you see discover solutions peppermint, and you go on that, and there you have a beautiful blog, and we have that on every single oil we have. And there you have the entire overview, how it can be used. So if you ever have a question of what body systems it's good for and so on. And then there's this little graphic here. Let me just pull you back. So this little graphic, can you see there's menthol and menthone and then some other stuff. So each oil has a little graphic like this where you can look at what is the chemistry and then how many studies and what it works well with together and so on. Really fun to look at this. And there you'll see, if you open lavender, for example, you'll see it's linalool, and then you'll see it's linalool acetate. So that is spelled like this, linalool acetate. Those two are the main components, and then there's much more chemistry. I mean, if you look at the list of what is in our oils, it's usually over 100 components, but the main components are the main players in what the oil will do with us. So they explain. I mean, I pulled in the information from doTERRA just because I wanted you guys to have it before. Maybe you know that there's loads of information on the doTERRA website. Go dive in there. So like menthol, linalool is a monoterpene alcohol. That means it's a molecule with a backbone made of 10 carbons, and alcohol is an oxygen atom bonded to both a hydrogen atom and a carbon atom in that backbone. You see, that's as far as my chemistry will ever go, I think. Anyways, it looks a certain way, and it's called an alcohol because there's certain bondings, and there's sometimes they're circular, that's the sesquiterpenes, and then the monoterpenes are more like in a row, and so there's very beautiful buildings of atoms. But here we have some of the linalool heavy oils. That's magnolia, coriander, cilantro, basil, petitgrain. And usually, like if you think about what do we use linalool for, it's the calming, the good sleep calming effect. It's also great for skin, but that's more the linalool acetate, and that is the skin healer. The funny thing is though that so here's different aromatic and topical and internal uses, and the interesting thing is when we take lavender oil, for example, internally, the linalool acetate turns into linalool. So it's kind of just the pre-form of it. So we can say that linalool is the ripe molecule and linalool acetate is the unripe. And we want them both in there because it's good that we have that reaction happening in our body so that we make more linalool of what lavender molecules we have. It kind of lasts longer. In vivo research indicates that linalool-rich lavender may be beneficial to the immune system. While more research is required, internal use of an oil containing linalool might lend support to this body system. So what we notice very clearly is that when we have allergies and our immune system is a little bit overactive there, and is making those what's the word? Protecting itself against things that aren't dangerous. That's when linalool can come in and calm it down. So, and I'm forgetting the word. There's a word when we have allergies, there's like a chemical word for what's happening in the body. and then it's anti that. Well, it'll come back. I'm sorry, my brain isn't quite happy right now. So I want you guys to go in then and read more like in depth on linalool. There's lots of studies that you could look up if you wanted to, because we have so many pages. I'm going to just move on so that we get to Adaptiv. It's coming soon. So here's a little bit of the linalool information. If you have bad skin, like eczema, psoriasis, or you have painful muscles or menstruation pain, linalool acetate can be really helpful. So all the oils that have linalool will also have some linalool acetate in it. So you can just think, okay, florals or the ones mentioned above can be helpful if I have pain in my uterus when I'm bleeding, and I can apply that. So you can apply Adaptiv because it is very high in linalool and linalool acetate. You can apply that as a massage oil if you have discomfort. So I'm just going to click on here to show you that we have a little link in here with a blog on Adaptiv, and here a description of how a study was done, or a couple of studies were done on Adaptiv. So go check that out. It's really interesting. So they're describing the study where they had a cohort of 80 people coming in knowing they would do something stressful, and they kind of hyped it up so that the people would just like in advance already kind of be a little bit stressed. And then they would sit down in 2 rooms and would have to do like really quickly have to solve mathematic and like really like complicated problems instead of like, and they had these pulse measuring systems on them, and so they were like, you know, the computer was reading their physical responses. And then the other group was in the other room, and in one of the rooms was Adaptiv in the diffuser, and the other room just had something lovely smelling, not therapeutic even. So and they could see the different effects, like, or the physical expression of more or less stress in these 2 groups. And then they changed rooms, and then they could see how the very stressed group, where there wasn't any Adaptiv, because the Adaptiv group was kind of chilled out in that situation, they changed them, and then the stress rose on the group where there wasn't any Adaptiv anymore, and the super stressed group came into the Adaptiv room and chilled out entirely. So it's really interesting to read. And doTERRA is really into doing these kind of studies, actual clinical studies, where they can show then that their oils work on people, because often when we do studies or when we look on PubMed with all the oil research is often just done in the Petri dish, and then we still have to assume that yes, it works in people too. I mean, we know it works in people too, because aromatherapy is so old and so well used, and we've always been in touch with nature and used plant medicine. But we want the validation from the lab or from the research institute, and that's really beautiful that doTERRA is actually doing that, using the high quality oils, because you don't know what kind of oils the people that have done the studies on PubMed have been using. They could have been entirely adulterated. They could have been, you know, just bad quality oxidized. And so then the outcomes will be slightly different or even entirely different. But when doTERRA does their own research on their own oils, then we know that they're actually using the right quality raw material, so that we can base science on that. So let's go through. And you can always ask things, right? You know that in case something comes up. But let's go through what's in Adaptiv. Adaptiv was made as part of a movement in doTERRA to create something for mental wellness. So we're not allowed to say mental illness because illness isn't something we should be selling oils against. But if we say wellness, we want to create mental wellness, then it's a proactive approach, but it can be understood by those that have mental illness, that they can also use it. And we always have to, doTERRA always has to express it in these like weird ways. But anyways, I think it's a really nice thing to say also mental wellness before mental illness, because then we build on what's good I like that approach generally, to consider that even somebody who's unwell still has beauty and worth and goodness in them. So the essential oils in Adaptiv, we have lavender. The calming and relaxing aroma of lavender essential oil is often considered the root of modern aromatherapy, and the past century has provided a significant amount of evidence to support it. Whether applied topically or used aromatically, human clinical trials have confirmed the ability of lavender's aroma to create a positive atmosphere, reduce occasional feelings of anxiousness and stress, and create a restful environment. So lavender is our friend for calming our senses. And they don't talk about the internal use here, but obviously you can take lavender internally. Magnolia has one of the highest concentration of the monoterpene alcohol linalool. Along with its many benefits, when applied topically, preclinical studies suggest essential oils rich in linalool promote a calm, relaxing environment, but more confirming the clinical research is needed, as always. But we know in our own clinical research in the everyday that this is very true, and that it can be very calming and very soothing. Here's neroli. Neroli is one of those that is very studied for supporting mothers during birth. Actually, breathing in neroli can help mothers need much less other intervention if they're birthing in the hospital. So that's a beautiful thing to know if you're in that circle of mothers to be, or I'm a doula, so I get questions like this all the time. So both neroli as its single oil, but also Adaptiv just as a blend is a beautiful gift for mothers. If they're like, oh, is there anything that can help me during birth, and you don't know where to start because like there's like 15 oils they could get, then you can just it's not even expensive, you can buy them a roll-on as like, you know, a baby shower gift or something, and be like, just use that. And because lots of beautiful oils are in there, they can massage their belly with it even, or just have it as a beautiful, like a ritual kind of birth oil. I'm just gonna check out. Yes, tell your friend Molly about this oil. She'll be helped. If you can test if you get it, or if you get a sample of me, you just ask her to smell it once before. If she doesn't like it, it won't help her because she won't use it. But if she likes it, and mostly her body will be like, oh yeah, give me more. And most of the pregnant ladies I've encountered love Adaptiv when I've presented it to them. Neroli is unique in that it has many of the characteristics of essential oils rich in linalool and linalool acetate, but being derived from a citrus tree, it's the flower of the Citrus aurantium. It in Swedish that's pomerans, just so you guys know. It also has significant concentrations of limonene. Limonene we talked about in the frankincense call last week. We're very cleansing, very supportive for tissue, very good antioxidant. Several clinicals confirm the ability of neroli essential oil to support calm feelings when experienced aromatically. Neroli does not smell lemon, and so doesn't frankincense, right? They still have limonene in them. Limonene is that citrusy smell, but because they have so much else, their scent becomes totally different. Neroli smells very much like that soapy, floral, romantic, you know, summer evening smell. So a really, really beautiful oil just by itself even. There's a question here. I'm going to read it. If you have anything I could send my friend about the use of Adaptiv in birth, that would be great. She's a bit skeptical to oils, but she uses a lot of synthetic smells in her life, and it would be great to also introduce her to the oil world in a gentle way. Maybe, yeah, I think there's a lot to say. I mean, you could introduce her to the concept of detoxifying her life for herself and her baby's health. So that would mean looking at just fragrance, the question of what synthetic fragrance does. I don't really have any presentations on that. I should probably, but for now I could type something, or I could just like send some links and so on. We can look at that. And then you can ask her, I think if she's open to good smells, then you can say that this is natural. It will smell good, but it won't have any of the toxic effect, you know, it won't collect in her tissues, it won't disturb her baby's attachment process, it won't disturb her baby's organs. And yeah, I mean, there's so much with, like, when people are using synthetic fragrance, they love smells, but they just haven't learned yet what synthetic fragrance does in our body, because it's not very well known. But you have to kind of be inclined to look at like ingredients lists on the back of everything. And I don't know, not everyone is there, right? So how do we start them off? I think for her baby's sake, so you'd have to speak about synthetic fragrance being really bad, but her not having to go unscented entirely, just replacing with natural fragrance, I think. Yeah, and also something to read. I mean, like, is she open to researching? Because there's so much, right? So that we'd have to look at what's in English is called the Environmental Health Agency, Environmental Working Group, I think, EWG. But in Sweden it's the Naturskyddsföreningen, I think. It's like a consumers, like they look at consumers' interests and consumers' health, and they're kind of against the big players in the industries, and then they look at ingredients. So there's an app called Think Dirty, where you can check all your products, but in order to want to check all your products for if they're clean or not, your mind needs to open to that there is unclean things, that there is chemicals that are bad for you in this world, right? So I think in a way you can lead her by maybe just by being an example and being like, wow, I found out this, so I can give you some research, you can learn about it, and you just go like, wow, this has impressed me a lot. I'm taking out all the synthetic things out of my life, like plastbanta in Swedish, and gift-free livsstil, and then maybe she'll get inspired, because I think otherwise there's so much to read and so much to understand. I don't think you can make people read it, right? Yeah. So wild orange, kind of sister to neroli, is inadaptive. It's commonly used in essential oil blends because of its uniquely energizing yet calming aroma. So that it's a citrus oil, so it gives us that joy, but it also has some ingredients in it that are, for example, also in the tree oils. So that's why wild orange marries really well with frankincense, for example, because it's kind of like that domino where it's calming too. So they fit very well. Clinical research has shown that due to its concentration of limonene, aromatic and topical application of wild orange helps create a positive, relaxing environment. We know that by now. So we have rosemary, beautiful, beautiful oil to support the brain. It says here, guanidiniol, camphor, and alpha-pinene in it. Alpha-pinene we remember from frankincense, so there again it can be combined really well with frankincense. The combination of these three monoterpenes creates a distinct aroma that in initial clinical research suggests may support feelings of alertness and focus and reduce feelings of stress. So there is a lot of research on rosemary, but they have to say it in this careful way, that it can be used to support the brain when the brain is losing memory. So in Alzheimer, for example, Alzheimer patients can be treated with rosemary. And there's also the rosmarinic acid in there. It's another component then that can support our cells in our brain when we've been, for example, using the computer a lot, and there's lots of blue light and lots of like electromagnetic fields going on. We can support ourselves to recuperate better with rosemary, or just Adaptiv because it's in there. Then we have copaiba as the essential oil with the highest known concentration of beta-caryophyllene. Copaiba's spectrum of benefits is almost endless. While it is primarily known for its use in traditional wellness practices and for being great for the skin topically, the rich concentration of beta-caryophyllene also imparts an uplifting aroma. So beta-caryophyllene is what's called a cannabinoid substance. So when we think cannabinoid, the first plant cannabinoids were found in the cannabis plant. That's why they call them cannabinoids. But those are substances that trigger healing in our body. We have receptors for them in our immune system and in our brain, and there's different kinds, and the beta-caryophyllene is one of those that does not go so much into the brain, so there's no like psychoactive effect, but it goes into our whole body and all our systems and organs. It has receptor sites and can help out. It's beautiful for skin, beautiful for all over health, calming, repairing, and immune enhancing. And we can take it internally if we have copaiba by itself. Many people that have autoimmune diseases, Parkinson, for example, and so on, they take copaiba and frankincense to help them at least not shake so much anymore or calm down or however their flare-ups express. Now the last ingredients in copaiba, we'll have a whole session in March, so that'll be a long ebook. I'm telling you, there's like 40 studies I can pull from. So then the last ingredient is sweet gum. It's also called liquid ambar, and it's more commonly referred to as sweet gum because I suppose liquid ambar would be more French, right? Produces a resinous sap, liquid amber, that can be steam distilled to produce an essential oil with a wide spectrum of benefits. The resulting substance is a unique combination of volatile aromatic compounds that are not commonly found in other essential oils and emit a unique aroma with pine, floral, and spicy notes. I wish we had more of that so that we could have a singular, but I think it's really hard to find on the market in the right quality. So they only have it to put it into Adaptiv. With doTERRA, it's always that way. That when they start having relationships with the right producers, they produce a little and then they scale up and then they scale up. And then, so first they have it for the blends and then they make more. And then we sometimes get it as a gift or in the Christmas catalog or, whatever, like it pops up in small amounts. And then at some point when they have established production, then it comes into our markets as something that we always have in our shop. Exactly. So then the last ingredient is spearmint, the dominant volatile aromatic compound in the chemical composition of spearmint. Essential oil is the monoterpene ketone, that's called carvone. That's in other oils. It's in peppermint too. Along with having benefits when applied topically, specifically cleansing properties, initial human clinical research has shown that essential oils high in carvone, so spearmint and dill, for example, also have an uplifting and arousing aroma that energizes the atmosphere. That sounds very good. What spearmint, in my experience, is very good for is to give us courage. And I'm pretty sure that's what carvone is good at. I think carvone is even in oregano in small amounts and other herbs too. So I wrote a little on the emotional support you can expect from Adaptiv, but I want you guys to fill in the form first. Not sure if you guys have had the time to fill in the before form of Adaptiv, so then I won't read that part yet to not taint your expectations. And then as an assignment, we have this week to use Adaptiv if you have it, or to use a similar blend. So you now know the ingredients, so you can make up something similar and use it in whichever situation you see fit, but also just make an intention to have it with you, to kind of interact with this oil a little bit more often than with other oils, because then it will, you will create a new relationship with it, and you will be able to write down something about what you have experienced at the end of the week, right? Because next Sunday we just have a question and answer session, no more content, so you can also redo the frankincense or just combine the two and so on. But because, I mean, I call this an oil study because I'm thinking it would be nice to be a little bit scientific about it and be like, okay, now I focus on one oil. Obviously you can still use your other oils too. So on page 9 you find the assignment for this week, and then some usage tips, how to use. You can diffuse it, you can massage it, you can bathe with it in Epsom salts, you can have it as a perfume. And Molly, I think that this kind of thing you could give your friend just as a gift even, and be like, look, this is how you use this oil. You make yourself all the spa experiences, and then when she's in love with it, you can say, okay, and now it's time that you come to workshop to Kata and learn about oils. You know, like that is like that's a good entry point, to just create experiences first, because then she goes into it with her heart, and then she'll be like, oh, I want more. And then we can talk about like, and you know what, you can, when she's already made a relationship, you can replace your laundry detergent, you can replace your soap, you can replace your shampoo, and so on, so that you slowly build on that. Because we will be talking about that kind of stuff in this course, but also in our Telegram group, and like she'll be exposed to low tox lifestyle ideas. So because if it's like, it can be overwhelming, it can lead to a huge bout of guilty conscience if you like just put it out in front of her and be like, you're poisoning yourself. Then people will be like, I don't want to hear it. So I think it's a nicer entry to just create some beautiful experiences and let her walk that path. Making a linen spray, I love that part. When when you have that freshly the new bedding, and then you just like put some Adaptiv spray on there. That's just so. And even in your linen cabinet, you can have actually a little like a cotton ball that you put some Adaptiv drops on and put it where you store your linen, and it'll automatically smell a little bit of some oil. Even in the tumble dryer, I use it actually on like woolen balls to dry my clothes with. Molly's writing something. Yes, exactly. It's all these smelly things. People are kind of hooked to them, especially the fabric softeners. They're such gross fragrances, and they're made to stick. So they stick on your clothes for weeks, right? When you've bought something online and people will use them, like it takes like 4 or 5 times washing something to actually get rid of the smell. That's how hard they stick, depending on how much was used, obviously. But then also they don't just stick on our clothes, they also stick on in our tissue. So they're made to actually get stuck in our lung tissue, and then the body has to repair, and then they're not the only chemical we're exposed to. So it's really gross. But it's also like this. I mean, I have these two sides in my friendship circle, the ones that don't know yet, that still use detergents that smell with the synthetic fragrance, and then you have the hippies that smell like incense and they think it's all natural. But that's also, if it's not organic, super high level, expensive incense, which I don't think any of them can afford, it's also synthetic fragrance, and it's just that they smoke it into the air, like as in put it as smoke into the air instead of putting it on their clothes. But it's the same bloody synthetics, you're like, oh my god, like, and you hug them and you smell for days. It's like, okay, let's just replace this all with real stuff, thank you. And you can, like, with this kind of thing of like, I want to help all my friends, it can be very beautiful. You can be really, yeah, you're a really good person when you do, but it can also be really, really tricky because they need to want to help themselves, and then you can meet them kind of in the middle, right? So, but I think we can, if we as a group dive into low tox topics and we build our own knowledge, then we can tell our friends that little we know, and then we can influence them that way, right? I think that's a good organic way, that where we don't like convince them, or kind of, we're not on a mission to change their lives, but we're just exuding new knowledge, you know, in the natural way. I think that's great. There's a podcast I've linked here in the book that is the doTERRA podcast on Adaptiv. That's really fun to listen to. It's a midwife, actually, chiropractor and midwife, talking about Adaptiv. And then, because we only have 5 minutes left, there's another half to my ebook. So the next, let's see, 6 pages are on nutrition, and there's no meal plans or what you should and shouldn't eat, but it's a question. It's more like a thought process for you to think about: am I nourishing myself properly? Am I undernourishing myself? Do I have gaps? You know, we eat a lot, but do we have any nutrition in our diet? And I have linked where you can read more about how to get to max out on nutrition in your diet, so that you eat little, but it's so nutritionally dense that it actually nourishes you. I think that's my approach. And these are the people that I read and get inspired by. We don't have the time now to go through it, but because having a nourished body is so vital to deal with stress, and because Adaptiv is kind of covers the topic of to stress down or to stress less or to manage your stress, nourishment helps too. It helps a lot, especially when we're moms and when we don't sleep so well, or when we have an intense lifestyle, we have worries or whatever is going on in our lives. We need to nourish ourselves so that they can work through that with us. And there's one beautiful recipe that I wanted to share, a cocktail. I love it. But it's called the adrenal cocktail. And what it is, actually, it's a remineralization cocktail. So it's a drink that you make yourself, kind of instead of a cup of tea or coffee in the afternoon, that has so much potassium and sodium and vitamin C, and maybe some fat and maybe some essential oils, that you up your intake of, especially potassium. It needs the sodium to be taken up, and it needs the vitamin C to be taken up. And that helps your adrenals. So that's the beautiful glands that are making our alertness and activation hormones. And they're very overworked in most of us, especially when we live in cities, or if we have children, or, you know, not sleeping so well, or just having a full-on lifestyle. Our adrenals are constantly on. And to give them the things they need, we can give them more minerals, and then they will actually make or repair themselves better, and we can avoid adrenal fatigue or just getting burned out. Sleep is really important. I listened to this guy, a doctor online. He was like, he does these rapid interviews, and he was saying in 30 seconds, it was really like, whoa, how quick he spoke. But he was saying that women need more sleep than men. And I sent this to my husband. I said, ha, so you see, I have to sleep in the morning, because our adrenals actually need 9 hours to recuperate. When they do have the potassium they need, they still need the sleep to repair. So make sure you sleep well, darlings. I'm working on that for myself. So try out, this is really yummy, actually. Coconut water, Celtic sea salt, just because it has the most beautiful form of sodium, but it's also, you can take just sea salt. It shouldn't be like too much refined salt, you know, not bleached or not too white. It should be like a natural salt. You can take Himalaya salt, that is like a pink or a black Himalaya salt. And then vitamin C, you can either take a supplement, or there's powders or there's liquid forms. or just press some orange juice. But with the orange juice, you still have some fructose in there. So if you're a little bit on the side where you don't want to take too much sugar into your diet, then do just some vitamin C here. I add some raw cream if I do have orange juice, because the fat will just like round off that sugar spike. And then obviously I add essential oils to make it really yummy. You can add collagen if you have. You can add, if you already use the Meta Power, Elizabeth, you can already get it in America. We don't have it yet in Europe. You can add the collagen supplement from doTERRA if you want. But generally, like the main recipe is coconut water, salt, and vitamin C. And exactly, so I talk a little bit about remineralization, and this is a Swedish shop where I get my vitamins, the ones that I don't get from doTERRA. I know that you can if you follow the root cause protocol, which I've linked above in the PDF, there's lots of vitamins that they say you don't take, and then there's lots of vitamins that you do take, and those we can find in this one shop in Sweden, but then because they have specialized in the root cause protocol, but then you can find them anywhere, really. You just search for the right quality. Then I wanted to say one word about lifelong vitality. Because it is a multivitamin, I'm kind of ditching it sometimes, but then I'm kind of going back to it again, because I get such great results when I take it. But then I read about that you shouldn't take multivitamins, and then I read about like you should because it's better, and I'm just confused at the moment. Anyways, there's a study on PubMed by doTERRA, a review on how great the lifelong vitality works for many people. You can make up your own mind. If you do want to take a multivitamin, the lifelong vitality is great. If you don't want to take a multivitamin, then you have to go otherwise, obviously. I kind of every other month I take it, and then I pause it, and it seems to work well. And then there's a page on where if you print this out, you can add your own notes, obviously. All right, this was our long ebook, chapter 2. Oh my God. I hope that you've learned something that was valuable for you today. And if you have questions, please let me know. I'll give you a minute, and then we'll stop the recording.
I just have one question, Kata, really practical question. When you dilute oils in a roller, where do you apply it on your body? Like you said, you have Adaptiv. I read the book for today, and you write that you have Adaptiv in a roller in your handbag, and then I'm wondering, like, where, because when I have rollers, I just usually apply it here.
Yeah.
But do you have any other ideas?
I mean, it's a good question. So if I have the time, then I put it on, like, let's say I'm getting stressed in that way that I don't know where it comes from. There can be anxiety in me. And I want it around my solar plexus, because I feel like that's here, right? Around here. Because that's where I feel like I'm tightening up right there. I'm not breathing well. So I want to try to breathe, and I put it there. If I'm sad, I would put it over my heart. If I don't know, like I kind of just want to support myself, then wherever, because I need to smell it to make my brain rearrange its chemistry. So these points are really great, because then it's like a perfume. You will smell it around you. I can take it even just if I, preventatively, I just put it in my hair. Excuse me, I'm not having even brushed it today, but usually it's much more beautiful. So, so I put it in my hair, because then when I move, I have some Adaptiv around me. So I kind of prime myself with it. What's a beautiful place to put is actually wherever you have very thin skin. So this is very close to, that goes into the pulse, like into our veins or arteries directly, into the bloodstream directly, right? So because it's very thin skin here. We have the same here, really thin. We have the same here, really thin. So you can kind of like paint yourself up and down. These are meridians that go directly into the heart and lung. They go along here too. So you'd be like supporting breathing, deeper breaths, and your heart in its processes also. If you there is these acupoints that if you have the time to sit down, you can work with these beautiful acupuncture points that I'm learning a little bit about it. I'm not qualified yet, but I'll show you one that is just really really effective for me. It's on the side of the knee. That's where there's a little soft spot. And you can do it without oils, you can do it with oils, but you hold your finger there, and it's when you're noticing there's a resistance in you, you kind of don't want to do something, but you have to. And it could be getting up in the morning, it could be having a conversation with somebody that is really causing anxiety and you just don't want to go there. And this is the point where we melt resistance. And you can use Adaptiv there too. You can use frankincense there. You can use marjoram. That's also beautiful oil to soften yourself, you know, or oregano, or things that you wouldn't necessarily put as a perfume. You can use on your knees there. It's a really beautiful point. And you hold it with a little pressure for about 5 minutes or so. So it's a little bit of a longer process. And you'll notice probably that tears may start running, or like feelings bubbles up, you know. That's a really beautiful acupoint. And we have them everywhere. We have them in our finger, in our hands, we have them under our feet. So what you can do is you can look up acupuncture points, which points go together with which organ, for example. And then you can directly put an oil there with some slight pressure.
I love that.
It's really beautiful. I mean, we have.
I was just trying to see where like, because I've had another acupressure point. Like there's like a thing, right? I don't know. It's hard to see my knee, but like soft here, but a little bit further down.
Well, that's one too.
Yeah, and I was doing this digestive flow qigong, and then she mentioned like this point here being connected to a big meridian to like regularly massage or put pressure there. And I've been actually putting essential oils there. Cool. And on the inside of my ankle. Those 2 points somehow makes me feel really good. I don't really know. I forgot about them, but I used them.
On the inside of your ankle is for the reproductive organs. So that's the woman's spot. So that's where we put Clary Calm if we want to support.
Maybe that's why I'm called to do womb work right now. Everything I do, like I don't really know exactly what I'm doing, but it seemed to be linked to my womb. And no, cool.
It's beautiful.
Sorry if I cut off.
I know, that's really beautiful. So basically what you can do is you can look up some points in acupuncture, and then you can try find them, because it's not always easy to actually find the point. When you, like, they have this way of measuring 2 fingers down, and then you press really hard. But then when you do find the point, whoa, you notice it really goes like zzz, like you can really feel some sort of electricity or some sort of tingling happening, or it's just pain happening because it may be totally blocked there. And then that's where you can put oils too. So long answer, but in short, just I usually have clothes on and so on, then I put it on my pulse points, on these ear points, and maybe on my neck, because I always want to remember that the base of the skull is where I can come very close to my brain with oils. And the same with the crown, right? Then with the oils that I can take internally, I put them on my palate to come, like kind of on the roof of the mouth, so that I can come as close to the brain as possible. But smelling them puts them right into the brain. So that's you can also just, if you're in the car, I do that with balance a lot if I have this like road rage, and I just smell on balance, because I only have one hand, so I kind of just open it, even just dip my finger on it and put it under here so I smell it. Yeah, so there's lots of areas we can apply. I think if you find your favorite one and you test a little bit, like, does it always work here? In which situation does it work when I apply? Some people have a diffuser in the car because they don't like to apply in the car, but they put a diffuser on before they drive away for calm and composed driving. So that's also an option.
Are there these diffusers that you can like kind of put in the cigarette thingy? Yes. I don't know if new cars have it, but you know, there's that plug you can actually put in with a charge your phone or something, and it's like a mini diffuser.
And the diffusers, you can take the mobile ones we have, you can charge them in beforehand, and then they last for about one one filling on battery.
Cool.
Yeah, so they're mobile that way. They're very great. And the one that we have in stock right now, I think, is called Pilot Diffuser. All right. Thank you so much for this session. And thank you for joining Elizabeth from all the way across the ocean. And I hope to see you next week. In case you need more time, the question and answer next week can be really short, and we just keep playing with frankincense and Adaptiv. And in February we'll have Supermint and Wild Orange as topics. So the 2nd and 3rd Sunday in February, we'll be diving into those favorites of mine already. Supermint, I've just gotten it, but oh my god, it's yummy. I understand why they did it. Because first I was like, what? Are you gonna like mess up my mint? You know? But oh no, it's yummy. It's really good. All right. I think we are very much done, and I wish you a lovely Sunday. And I see you in the chat.
Thank you so much. See you.